Court, something you said reminded me of a question we got last week, and it seems like, you know, we forget that this might actually be a question, but on a basic level team, who runs the offense? How does an offense run? What role does a setter have in where players are going and how fast they're going there? And how does a typical offense get set up? And what role does a setter have
Yeah.
in manipulating that offense?
Yeah. I think typically we're in charge of running the plays and deciding what patterns we're going to run, what routes we want our hitters to go. Obviously, we've probably front loaded that with the coach. When I say front loaded, I just mean we've talked about, we made a game plan, we have like strategies in place, a plan of attack when we're on the court. So whether it's physical, like what offense we're running, or even a mental skill of, hey, I know I'm going to make mistakes. So when I do, let's front load what I'm going to go to. So that's what I mean, if that word wasn't clear. But I'm in each row, kind of have a game plan of what I want my three hitters or two hitters to do. And then I don't know how far you want me to go into this, Chris, but I'm looking at the block. I'm assessing kind of our strengths, like an ideal situation where we'd want to go.
And when you say you're looking at the block, you're not looking at the block during the play. This is all pre-play, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so this is all before the serve. We're kind of getting into rotation. I look at my hitters. I remember the game plan. I'm looking on a perfect pass, what our strengths would be. On a not so perfect pass, who would be a good option. And then certainly looking at, depending on what age you're coaching, I would look at the block and seeing, is there a glaring weakness? Is there a Courtney Thompson at the net? I'd probably run at her. Set few more balls her way for sure. And then maybe in an emergency situation, who I would go to. And we're going through all these skills, and then once the serve's up, you're just kind of in the moment, and you're letting your instincts take over. Hopefully, you've trained it enough to just be present and make a good choice. But for every row, I'm determining what routes we're running and calling the plays. And then I also like my setters when we're serving. Before the serve, to just let's say I'll let my middle hitter know, like, hey, in trans, let's try to run a gap if we can. I really want you in this gap right now. Like, let's attack this, or let's try to run a slide here in trans. Obviously, it depends on the dig, but I think we can influence all those things.
Yeah, just think at a very basic level. I like just if kind of thinking about youth volleyball. I like the setter to not have to call anything. We just have some fixed plays. There's going to be somebody on the outside that's going to run this kind of at this tempo. There's going to be somebody in the middle that's going to run at this tempo. And there's going to be, depending on your road, somebody on the right side running at this tempo. And the setter doesn't have to make any calls. We just have all these default plays every single time. And then we have some default transition moves as well. So, hey, I'm always going to be doing this in transition. She's always going to be doing that. And so I think as the level gets higher, the setter has more responsibility for changing what the attackers are doing. But even for us at BYU, when I was coaching the guys there, the setter only really ever, I would say with regularity, manipulated where the middle was going. And so the middle was either next to our setter or in the gap, or maybe every once in a while right behind the setter. But mostly they just called, hey, here's where we want the middle to go. And we always had everybody else going at speed to the pin. So we're going as fast as we can to either pin by default. And, we had a play up the middle of the court, a back row attacker coming in the middle of the court and going as fast as we could there. And then same thing in transition. You'd hear from the hitters, they would kind of tell you if they were off rhythm or not. But even at that level, a lot of the offense was already just patterned. This is what we're going to do every single time. And then the setter, all you have to do is kind of switch up what the middle is doing. And then every now and then we'd have, plays where the outsides would come inside into the gap a little bit, or they'd come inside from the pin, or, we'd cross things up. But that was for sure the exception. And that was the setter got involved in that. Hey, you're running this special play. But I would say that, for coaches, the more that you can just standardize the offense for the setter, maybe give her one player to move around. That makes life a lot easier and for everybody, I think, and it allows her to just be good at a few things as opposed to trying to, keep all of the things that you were describing in her mind. That's a lot going on every single play to try to sort out and remember and figure out. And so anything you can do to just kind of keep that pretty basic, I think, really helps.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was more I guess on the national team how we would run it, but even then, like our pins didn't move that much, so it is mostly the middle. And I one thing to add to that, if you are in games coaching strategy and hey, let's run a little more of this, less of this, or let's make sure we're getting Susie more involved. She's hitting 600, whatever. I think it's important to give that same feedback at some point in practice. So as a setter, I think another skill is to get information from a coach and then be able to execute it because we're like you just said, Chris, like there's a lot going on and we're just trying to locate the ball. So if you're coaching a level where that's you're asking out of your setter in the game, I think it's important to train it as well.
Yeah, and those opportunities are pretty rare that you would do something like that in a practice. Hey, set this person more in practice. You kind of let them do what they want to do, but like you say, if we want to be good at it in the game, we need to find some opportunities here and there along the way to rep it during a practice. Yeah.